let's just get straight to it. I'm using the second volume cover because the third one's coming out, and when it does come out, I'll show you that volume cover. Kagurabachi. I the words. I don't even have the words. All I can tell you right now is that Hirohiko and Samura are two of the most crazy characters in the series. The fact that Hirohiko, because of how he was raised, for the Kumayori to use play on bodies, because he sees bodies as objects, is crazy. But what this really shows, to be honest, in my opinion, it really shows how Hirohiko's talent and determination for growth when it comes to an enchanted blade, like, it really is an infinite potential thing. It's the true realm of the enchanted blade. And it's interesting because I think a lot of people might assume Hirohiko should have this in the bag in terms of how he's performing, but for me, it only bridges the gap more for what Samura is, because Samura has had the blade for so long and has sat in the realm with the blade for so long that I can't imagine Hirohiko coming out on top, winning, or even a stalemate. I just can't imagine either of those things. And it kind of goes to prove just how much Samura bridged the gap in this chapter, because of all the blades that basically carve into Samura as he protects his daughter. And immediately he uses the third thing of the sword, which is the Suzaku, which is the phoenix feathers, which is, I figured, due to the bird motifs, he had a phoenix thing going on. But to know that it's rebirth in the terms of he just heals himself is crazy to me. And yet, even inside those feathers, he's still is standing on business immaculately. And it's interesting because you can see in Hirohiko's arrogance, thinking that he had Samura already, like, figured out. And even Chihiro knows, like, that's far from the truth. Like, clearly, he's tripping. And so, the way that Chihiro's like, how could you underestimate him? And for Hirohiko to be like, what? What are we talking about? I don't think he understands just how critical this three-way deadlock is. And I guess the way that people are talking about it, in my opinion, I think we have to think about something like this. In a three-way deadlock, you have three forces. Two of those forces are more than one person. There's only one force that's a singular person right now as we speak. And so I can't imagine Hirohiko thinking that he's going to be the one person to beat Samura. I think that was weird. That was weird for him to think such. That's really arrogant, in my opinion. Samura wasn't going out like that. But as soon as Samura took him seriously, this is when the chapter started to shift for me. Although it's towards the end of the chapter, and the following chapters are going to be crazy, but the ability for Samura to literally come through, like, in the dark, like a phoenix in feathers, and he's just coming out of the dark, and he's just like, I'm just gonna wild out, is insane to me. It's insane, because I wonder if the true realm for the phoenix exists beyond just healing. Or maybe it could be quote-unquote healing, but maybe it's repairing, rebirth, reconstructing. And so maybe Samura, with Suzaku, not only can he heal himself, but maybe he can reconstruct things around him. And I think that's insane. But it makes me also wonder, like, what is the true realm for Enten? Like, what does Enten control? And I think that that's very important. That's the most pivotal thing for me, in my opinion, when it comes to Kagurabachi, is every sword has its own true realm, but the only true realm that I can't figure out what it would be is Enten. I don't know what that motif looks like, and the more I think about it, the more I don't think I have an idea or a theory. I wonder just how powerful the sword can get. And that's one of the things that makes me nervous the most, is because let's say that this three-way deadlock, like I said, we're stuck in this, right? And there are other people there from the Hishaku who are just waiting, sitting and waiting, mind you. while Yura and Hashaku are trying to get the Shinichi. I wonder how this is going to look. Because even though the intensity right now of Chihiro versus Hirohiko versus Samura, even though we have that intensity, what we also have is that there are literally people waiting on the outside for the fight to end or for a time period for them to jump in. Like, people are still waiting to jump in. And that's the type of intensity that it's creating, because we'll either get a situation where it's Samura and Chihiro being the last one standing against the remaining Hishaku members, or it's going to be Chihiro after he lost, waiting for Samura to make the final blow, but all the Hishaku members jump in, and then Yura comes in with the Shinichi. It's either Hishaku comes out on top or Chihiro gets to escape, but I don't think Chihiro should escape. He already escaped once. He either stalemates Samura here, or the Hishaku come in and they throw everything out of whack. Those are the only two things that I can think of for the story that works, especially considering how the chapter I feel like is going, with Hirohiko basically being the unpredictable piece, but Samura and Chihiro. And it's good. It's so crazy to me when you think about it, like how much Chihiro's background of being around the Enchanted Blades puts him on such a higher level than a lot of people, just by having the knowledge of what the blade does, how it works, who has the sword, and just having that advantage and being able to prep himself ahead of everybody else. I mean, I know I probably said it the last video for the last chapter, but it really puts him ahead of the curve for so many things. I think if it wasn't for the fact that Chihiro knew about all these things, he would have been cooked. And I guess you can call it somewhat, battle IQ. For me personally, I'm putting it amongst the hacks, because he knows how the blade works down to its core. And he knows how the blades were created, drafted. He knows how the true realm can exist. And so with all that knowledge, the only way he can lose is by having a bad matchup for the blade, or facing someone who's a better sword fighter or enchanted blade user who has reached the true realm differently than he has. And that to me says enough. And so for me, with this next chapter coming out, I think what we're going to see is Samura finally do that true realm. Because I think with Hirohiko doing it, I think Samura is going to do it. And then I think Inten has to do it. If it isn't next week's chapter, it has to be the week after that. But Inten has to explore its true realm. It just has to happen. I don't know how it's going to happen, but it needs to happen. You see what I mean? But for Kagurabachi, the chapter is amazing as usual. And it's one of my favorite weekly manga that's out right now that I'm looking forward to continue reading and continue buying the volumes for nonetheless. Because the volume covers are hard, and then the manga itself is hard. It's nonstop. But keep reading Kagurabachi, because we're in for a treat. Y'all be easy. Peace.